Hi, this is Reliable RN, and I'm coming to you with a re-recording of the class I did on Monday night. I am doing it live on Wednesday night, but this week we did this online, and it's on memory and the brain. So I'm going to get right into a screen share. Okay. And so we're talking about memory and the brain. This is the just one of the nicest images in terms of, so if you're looking at the top down from the top of your head down, you have in the front here a prefrontal cortex, that's working memory. We have procedural memory in that yellow section. Cerebral cortex, perceptual memory, semantic memory. That's all happening in the green, the little green section that you can see that kind of lines the outside. The amygdala, little pea-sized kind of oval in the middle that's purple. That's for emotional memory. The cerebellum is for conditioned memory. It's kind of at the base, at the back of your head. And the hippocampus. The hippocampus is actually for most of our episodic memory. We do a lot with the hippocampus. We'll talk about that a lot when we're talking about our memory. So just to start off, my name's Kathleen King. I'm here to share public knowledge about medical information. My goal is not to give you exact medical advice, but instead to give you information that can help you have more meaningful discussions with your doctor and your own care teams to enhance your overall wellness. I have no relevant financial disclosures. I do run my own nurse coaching company. And within that company, we do some transition of care for families. I do some advocacy support, but also coaching for people who want to take steps closer to overall wellness. And I always thank Liz Saunders from Wiser Health and Fitness. I have been hosting on their platform, or I was hosting on her platform for the first year of my business, July 1st of 23. It'll be 1 year. But a lot of her people do come to my online events. And so I always thank Wiser Health and Fitness. It is an online platform for things like, I think it's even book clubs, but exercise and workouts are on there. So if you're looking for something online, Wiser Health and Fitness. And to the left-hand side, you can see my background. My background is engineering, as well as over 17 years of nursing, including cardiac, rehab, home care, and acute care. Okay. So let's get into it. In this class, we're just going to talk about 3 different types of memory: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory is exactly what it sounds like. It's what we take into our brain through our hands, through touch, smell, sight, hearing, anything that's tactile. That's sensory. And these channels help to just help us exist in the world. However, if they're important enough, if for whatever reason, the smell of the day, or the apple pie baking in the oven evokes strong emotional energy, or a strong emotional importance, we may pass sensory memory on to short term, and short term may in fact bring it into long term. Most of us would recall a scent, a smell, or the feel of, a favorite blanket when you were little, a favorite meal that mom's cooked for your whole life. And when somebody else cooks it and you're in somebody else's house, it evokes that memory of that particular meal that you like. That's sensory memory. Short-term memory. Think of it as like a scratch pad. It's the things we need for a little while, but we don't actually want to store it forever. So if you're reading a book, you certainly want to remember what happened in the beginning of the paragraph, so that when you get to the end of the paragraph, it all makes sense. However, you don't need to hold on to that paragraph 5 years from now. That's something that we can use, keep it in short term, and then give it back or let it go away. Short-term memory does decay rapidly and has a limited capacity. Long-term memory, that's where our memories are really stored. Theoretically, and I find this fascinating, theoretically, we have infinite storage. So we could take in an infinite amount of information and stored in our long-term memory. But here's the catch. We actually have limited recall. So think about long-term memory as a huge room with 100 file cabinets. And every file cabinet is floor to ceiling. It has 5 drawers in it. And you want to find the memory of your math grade when you were in 4th grade. Well, if you don't know which file cabinet it's in, and you don't know which drawer of the file cabinet, and you're not sure which file in the drawer of the cabinet, you're going to have a hard time finding them, right? So long-term memory, while we could theoretically have it a limitless amount, the truth is we have to be able to find what we're looking for. People with processing disorders have issues finding things. Executive function. Executive function actually helps us to organize our quote unquote file cabinets, our long-term memory, so we can find things quicker. So people with poor executive function, somebody with ADHD might have trouble finding the information that's actually in their brain. Somebody with a processing disorder certainly would. They need a little more time to find it in the file cabinet, so to speak. And here's another thing. The information can be deleted, but that's not actually what normally happens, especially when you're talking like a situation of dementia or Alzheimer's. It's not that the information was deleted. It's that we don't know how to find it. That's what forgetting is. Forgetting is I can't recall where that memory is stored. So I can't find, I can't find it. And if I can't find it, it doesn't matter whether it's deleted or not. It still is unattainable. All right, so human memory, sensory memory, very, very short, less than a second. And that could be, I'm looking up at clouds and I just, I love the pattern that day. That I might recall it later. I might throw that over to short-term memory and tell somebody I saw the best cloud, arrangement ever today, but I probably couldn't fully describe it to them. And I'm not sure I could draw it. Short-term memory, that's working memory. So that's the stuff we need. That is, you need you're reading a book and you need to finish the page. You're studying for a history exam and you need to take the information in so there's a contextual piece to what you're reading. Other short-term memory type things would be, I'm just trying to think. Things like, I need to be somewhere in 10 minutes. I'm not going to remember that tomorrow. I just need it for the next 10 minutes. Long-term memory, however, this is where the crux of it all falls. Long-term memory is lifetime memory. And in particular, there's 2 forms of long-term memory, explicit and implicit. Explicit is conscious memory. I am going to work to remember this. I make a shopping list and I forgot to take it with me, but before I left, I made a point of looking at it and trying to remember what was on it. That's explicit memory. Pardon me, I don't know why we're going forward, but I'm going to go back. Implicit memory is an unconscious type of memory. So implicit memory is the things that kind of form into our brain without us actually really trying. So the procedure for brushing your teeth. Now, maybe when you're little, you're kind of trying, it's an explicit memory, but at some point it kind of becomes an implicit memory. Everybody kind of knows the process by the time they're 10 or hopefully by 5. But you know what you're going to do. And that's kind of procedural memory. It's skills, it's tasks, tying your shoes. How many of you have heard the phrase, once you learn how to ride a bike, you'll never forget it? That's implicit memory. That's something that we might have worked to learn, but once we've learned it, it lives in our body. We're going to find it anytime we need it. So explicit memory, information you consciously work to remember. School is the easiest way to think about explicit memory, anything to do with the school, or you're trying to remember all of your brothers and sisters' birthdays or all of your nieces and nephews' birthdays. Implicit memory is that unconsciously and effortlessly learned type memories. So when you are amazed that you know all the words to a song that you don't even remember necessarily when you heard it, that's implicit memory. All right, so this is just an exercise. So looking at all these, knowing how to use utensils and dress yourself each day, implicit or explicit, right? That's going to be implicit. Knowing all the items on your shopping list, that's going to be explicit. You're going to work to remember that. Recalling how to boil water to fix dinner or how to drive a car. Well, that actually is going to be implicit. Important events from your life, such as your wedding, a special trip, or other notable milestones, that is certainly implicit. Those just soak in, and in part because emotionally charged memories absolutely get more solidified, and it's much easier to find them in file cabinets than, let's say, a math formula or a science formula. So just to go over again the parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, this area up here, short-term storage of explicit memories. The hippocampus, however, transfers these explicit memories from working memory to long-term memory, right? The cerebellum, that is for implicit memories. That's skills, habits, conditioning. So that's that cerebellum. It's way back here. It's pretty well protected, but when somebody has a stroke, right? So let's say there's a stroke and there's damage to somewhere. Damage to the prefrontal cortex is going to give a lot of problems with short-term memory. And when you can't store short-term memory, you're not going to be able to move it to the hippocampus, and it's not going to be stored in long-term memory. So for some people with prefrontal cortex strokes, they may not be able to have long-term memories following that. However, a cerebellum stroke, believe it or not, cerebellum strokes actually cause issues with balance and sometimes skills. Sometimes somebody with a cerebellum stroke, we may have to reteach how to walk. We may have to reteach how to tie their shoes, basic things that you would expect that they would always know. So let's talk about memory and how's yours. So we talked about this in the online class. We talked about, I asked everybody, how many days in June? And almost everybody could say 30, right? But how? Why do we remember that? For a lot of us, we remember it because of this cute little rhyme that we learned when we were little. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except for February, right? So those things stay with us. Mnemonics. When we talk about mnemonics, this is like the mnemonic for PEMDAS. That's a pretty classic one for math problems. It's how you know to do parentheses, what's in parentheses first, then you do exponents, then multiplication, then division, then addition, then subtraction. Some people learned it as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So if they had to remember which to do first, please excuse me, you go parentheses before exponents, okay? Name the planets in order. This was another pretty classic mnemonic for me, and I thought for most, although it was interesting on the call, not a lot of people knew it, but it's my very excellent mother just served us 9 pizzas because we include Pluto. We'd have to change that now because Pluto's not a planet, but Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, my very excellent mother, just Jupiter served Saturn, us, Uranus, 9, Neptune, pizzas, Pluto. And then how do you spell way? Which is the correct spelling? And most of us know it by sight, but few of us know it by I before E except after C, or when sounding like A, as in neighbor or way. So it's W-E-I-G-H. Music, oh my goodness. Most of us understand how critical music is for youngsters. Preschools, they use music all the time. We use music to teach the ABCs, twinkle, twinkle. Music is a great way to remember things in our brain. Because again, there's a rhythm to it, there's a pattern to it. We like patterns, our brain, our memory likes patterns. I was joking, how do you spell Mississippi? I know how to spell Mississippi because of a song I learned, and I don't even remember when or where, but it was Mississippi. Oklahoma. Some people would say that they spell it based on the musical Oklahoma because there's a song in there that spells out Oklahoma. Schoolhouse Rock. For people my generation and probably about 5 or 6 years older, how a bill becomes a law, that has to do with A little, I'm just a bill. Yeah, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. And that's how we remember the steps for a bill to become a law, because we watched Schoolhouse Rock and the music was done in such a way that you could not get them out of your head. All my children know the preamble to the Constitution because they sing it. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. That comes from a Schoolhouse Rock song. But my children, I have 4 children, all 4 of them could tell you the entire preamble to the Constitution because of music. And when we are working with dementia patients, some of the best and greatest studies show that music therapy is instrumental in their overall happiness and wellness, keeping them well for longer, keeping them engaged for longer, keeping their mind socially active. That is a big deal. So you could take a nonverbal dementia patient, and if you do a childhood song or music that they know from their childhood, they will often start singing along. There's plenty of videos that show this. It's remarkable. So never underestimate the power of music to memorize. What are some of the causes of memory loss? Stress, smoking, drugs and alcohol, certainly. But when they say drug, not just illegal drugs. Some of the drugs we take to minimize other conditions can, in fact, cause memory loss. Neurontin or gabapentin can sometimes cause this for people, sometimes short term, sometimes long term. But you might need it to control neuropathy from diabetes, right? So you have to, like, sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. But drugs themselves can cause memory loss. Strokes. This is a big one. Depending on how long it takes for them to resolve the stroke or to resolve the clot or to decrease the bleeding. When we talk about strokes, we talk about time is brain. The quicker we get a stroke victim treated, the more chance we're going to preserve more brain cells. Depression left untreated can actually be a huge cause of memory loss. Epilepsy, every time there's a seizure, there's potential for brain cells to be killed off. And Alzheimer's disease, which we'll talk about, is just one form of dementia, but it is the most broad illness under the dementia umbrella. But I don't want you to get frightened by that. All right. So I did want to talk a little bit about dementia versus normal aging. So there is some memory loss associated with normal aging. And again, it's not so much memory loss as it is just trouble finding where you store the information. So normal aging, not putting things away properly. If you put things in a different drawer than you normally do, that can be part of normal aging. Mood changes that are in a response to an appropriate cause. You see a movie, it makes you very sad and you cry. That kind of mood change, or you might not have when you were younger, but you might when you're older. That's normal aging. However, unpredictable mood changes, that's a different story. If you're in the kitchen and you're making dinner and you start crying for no apparent reason, we get a little concerned about unpredictable mood changes. Um, Forgetting things more often than you used to certainly could be early signs of dementia, but unfortunately, it's also a part of normal aging. Forgetting the names of people close to you, that would be more likely linked to dementia, whereas forgetting the names of people that you rarely see, that's going to probably be normal aging. All right, so take a look at this. Not all memory, senior moments are signs of dementia. Some of them are, in fact, just senior moments. What about dementia? So dementia is an umbrella term for loss of memory and other thinking abilities that's severe enough to interfere with daily life. So you forget how to button your shirt, right? You forget how to brush your teeth, or you don't ever remember to brush your teeth, or you never remember if you brushed your teeth or you didn't brush your teeth. That we start getting pretty concerned about, because at some point that's going to be an issue. So in terms of different types of dementia, Alzheimer's is clearly the biggest, 60 to 80%. Lewy body dementia is actually another one. Lewy body is usually younger people. Sometimes it has a lot of physical ailments that come with that. It's pretty devastating dementia, actually. Vascular dementia has to do with blood flow. Frontotemporal dementia is just another type of dementia that's also kind of a lot of short-term memory issues there. And Parkinson's and Huntington's sometimes fall under the dementia umbrella, in part because some of the stuff that's happening in Alzheimer's kind of is happening in Parkinson's and Huntington's as well. And I'm going to show you in just a minute. So if we look at on the right-hand side, this Alzheimer's brain and healthy brain, looking at the healthy brain, which is almost the middle of your screen, that healthy neuron creates almost like a spider web of information traveling to different parts of the brain. It's not that it's sitting under the brain, they're showing what's happening to the neurons inside the brain. These neurons pretty much compose the entire brain. They're throughout it. And it really is like a spider web network. Okay. And as long as all of the web pieces are intact and vital and functioning, information travels to and from, it's great. In Alzheimer's, see how there's plaques and tangles. We talk about plaques and tangles. And what happens is that the neuron itself gets diseased and the connections start to break down. Either the plaques interfere or the tangles themselves interfere. And so information is not flowing across the web. It's actually getting hung up. It'll go part of the way and then it just fizzles out. So the information's not getting where it needs to. So I can't find my memory if I can't send a message saying, hey, can you retrieve my memory about last week's doctor's appointment, right? If I can't send that message out and let it get there and then come back to me because the webbing, the roadway is destroyed, it's going to look like I have very bad memory or I don't know what happened at the doctor's. And essentially that's what Alzheimer's looks like. On the left-hand side, I just wanted you to see like the healthy brain has very small areas of opening. We call them ventricles, and it has folds and grooves. We talk about folds and grooves a lot. But in advanced Alzheimer's disease, the brain actually shrinks. The actual white brain tissue, the matter, is dying off, so it's shrinking, and those ventricles are getting very big. So look at the holes that are obvious on the dementia, the Alzheimer's side. So the folds and the grooves on the outer layer are atrophied. We call atrophied is like stiff, no longer working, and the ventricles are much larger. So you say, that's great, Kath. Now you freaked me out a little bit. What can I do? Well, there are things you can do. That's the great thing. So things you can do. So to stave off dementia and memory loss, we know these things. Healthy diet. Nothing new here at Reliable RN. We're always talking about a healthy diet. Quit smoking. Smoking interferes with the ability of oxygen to get to the brain. We always want the maximum amount of energy of oxygen getting to the brain, helps feed our cells. You got to quit smoking. Keep mentally active. So mentally active is a big deal. We talk about the need to learn new skills, whether you learn a new card game with the ladies group, or you start playing Scrabble where maybe you didn't really play Scrabble before, or you're going to pick up pickleball. And that's not something that you've been doing and you never played tennis and it seems kind of complicated, but you're going to give it a shot. Mentally active. Doing puzzles at home is actually mentally active. If you go to most senior residences, you'll see that there's always a puzzle out. It's because puzzle work is great for depth perception as well as mental acuity. Avoid drinking too much alcohol. That shouldn't be news to anybody. And regular exercise. Again, oxygen levels matter. Exercise matters. Walks matter. So the more you get your heart rate up, the more you take in a little more oxygen as you're kind of working your body, the more your blood flows quicker. So when your heart rate increases, you get a little more blood flowing everywhere. That's a little more oxygen everywhere. That helps your brain. And foods that fight dementia. Blueberries are a big one. Fish, most fish, anything, the fatty oils of fish is generally good for you. Nuts, mushrooms, beans, spinach. Those are all great foods that help to stave off dementia. And again, it kind of comes back to eating a healthy diet. Here's Here's something that I'm going to go back to again. 1 in 3. I don't know why it doesn't want to do this, but 1 in 3 people, I'm going to pause it. 1 in 3 causes of dementia can be prevented. Okay. 1 in 3. So I want you to think about that. And how do you do it? You increase education. So when we say education, that's learning a new skill, that is making a point of learning something new every day, which we say to our kids all the time. Did you learn something new every day today? The same is true for all of us, even as we grow older. We need to learn something new every day. Physical activity, again, 20-minute walk, pickleball, anything that gets you out there, that's the kind of physical activity we're looking for. Social contact. Believe it or not, it is well documented that your amount of social contact, that it's a critical piece to staving off dementia. This idea that we have relationships that matter, and that those relationships, we touch in with those people. Part of it is because those people help to keep us more healthy. Part of it is they call us out when we're doing things that are not great for us, like smoking or eating crappy. But a lot of it is just even the emotional response of being with others. And what we need to decrease, hearing loss. Believe it or not, if you have hearing loss, you need to get some help for that, because the issue is not hearing loss. The issue is uncorrected hearing loss. If you start to hear things, or you start to disengage because you can't hear people, not only does that limit your social contact, it limits your education, and you start to pull away from being out there and trying new things, because it doesn't make sense and it's hard. So if you have a hearing loss, get it checked out, see if you can get it fixed. Hypertension. Again, this is unchecked hypertension. If you have hypertension and you're taking medication and you're taking your blood pressure once a week and you're staying right within the normal range, that's wonderful. It's under control. Obesity. Can we knock down 5 pounds in the next year, 10 pounds in the next year? Can we control obesity so that we are moving towards a more healthy body and nutrition level, so that you're more in the normal range? Whenever you can get there, that's worth doing. That will help to stave off dementia. Smoking. We talked about that. Depression, we talked about it. Diabetes. If you have diabetes, it needs to be under great control. And even if it's under fabulous control, you're still at risk of dementia, because there's still vascular changes that go along with diabetes that are really hard to negate. It's not so easy to negate them. And finally, these are my services. This is what Reliable RN can do for you. This is what I do. I'm going to come out of this particular one. There's one more piece I wanted to show you on this particular class, and it's because I think this is a really well done graphic on how to improve your own memory. So here you go. We'll all watch this together.
Whether it's losing your keys or trying to cram information into your head for an exam, sometimes we just need our brain to be less forgetful. So, using science, how can you improve your memory right now? First things first, you should hit the gym. But sorry, meatheads, you can't skip cardio. MRI studies show that regular aerobic exercise like running improves performance on memory tasks by increasing the blood flow and volume in parts of the hippocampus. This is important as the hippocampus is the part of the brain that is critical for learning and memory, but it shrinks by 1 to 2% per year in late adulthood. So aerobic exercise can be a great way to fight age-related declines of our memory. After the gym and pre-studying, grab a good snack. After a meal, the increased glucose and insulin has shown to promote the learning of new information. Glucose and insulin are also key to consolidation, the conversion of short-term to long-term memories, probably because the hippocampus we talked about earlier is enriched with insulin receptors. We said a good snack, but maybe try blueberries. As studies show, participants given a blueberry supplement had a better ability to recall past events. Blueberries contain flavonoids that have been shown to protect neurons, enhance their function, and stimulate their regeneration. Make sure that you're keeping up with the group chat. Scientists link high-quality personal relationships to better memory. A 2017 study found that adults aged 80 and up who reported more satisfying relationships in their old age had similar cognitive abilities to people in their 50s and 60s. Other research shows hanging out with people can protect against memory declines common in dementia. Scientists think that our friends create social pressure that makes us take care of ourselves, and they even do things as simple as tell you directly or indirectly to go visit a doctor. Social interactions also present complex cognitive memory challenges that can stimulate your brain. Thank you, friends. Hug your friends today because they're increasing your memory. If you really want to be super extra about all of this, you could also try to become a memory champion. These are people who can, for example, memorize the order of a deck of cards in 30 seconds. Superior memory skills aren't because of anatomical differences, which means you could accomplish some of these same memory feats with intense practice. One study found that after 6 weeks of daily 30-minute training, normal people exhibited similar levels of neural connectivity as these memory athletes. When given a list of 72 words, they went from being able to recall 26 to 30 to remembering over 60 words. A little stressed about memorizing a presentation for tomorrow? Not to worry, as research suggests an optimal level of anxiety can help us remember details. During stressful events, hormones like cortisol act on the brain to promote the formation of long-term memories, probably so that we can better process stressful situations and change our behaviors accordingly. But it doesn't mean that in these stressful times we are going to become way better at memorizing things, as too much stress has been shown to impair memory. So it's about finding the right balance between not panicking and panicking just enough to sharpen your mind. For the most part, we are overly stressed.
So let's talk a little bit about stress because it came up last night. Somebody said, well, how do you limit stress? Like stress is everywhere. Stress is everywhere. We know stress is everywhere. However, what they just stated is that some level of stress does actually help. It's when it's too much. So for anybody who is feeling very stressed or feels like they can't control the level of stress, in general, what we use for stress management, been using for a while, is meditation or breathing or prayer or a combination of the three, or yoga. But breathing, just a simple, like a box breathing would be in, hold for 4, out, hold for 4, in, hold for 4, out, hold for 4, in. And it goes like that. And you mentally think about breathing in and breathing out deeply. And the idea is as you focus on your breathing, you will stop focusing on the stress. As you focus on your prayer, you will stop focusing on the stress. As you do yoga, as you physically move your body, you actually will think less about the stress and you will think more about the movement you're engaged in. So there are ways to manage stress. It is really a very critical piece to enhancing your memory and to minimizing your chance at developing dementia. Can I guarantee that nobody will get Alzheimer's or dementia? Nope, nobody can. They really don't specifically know what's triggering a lot of people to get Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or Lewy body. And that's frustrating. They are working on it. There's studies constantly. So what you can do to protect yourself, you can work on your nutrition, work on your activity level, make sure you're getting enough sleep, and try to maintain good, healthy stress levels. That's it for this month with Reliable RN. I look forward to seeing you next month with our next presentation. Thanks so much.